The 1v1 interview series is a production of the Boss Rush network of podcasts. Visit bossrush.net to listen to our podcast and read our articles, game reviews, and more. You can also follow us on Twitter at Boss Rush Network to stay up to date with our content. Thank you for listening.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to 1v1 here on Boss Rush Network. I'm your host, the Enlightened Insider ADV. Joining me on this special interview section of our content creators, she is one of the writers of Zelda Dungeon, one of the contributors. She's also co-host with her good Judy on the Gossip Stones podcast that you guys could check out on Speaker, I believe. That is the podcast service. Please, everybody, welcome Lulu. Hello.
Hi. Thank you so much. I actually do social media for Zelda Dungeon and the Champions cast too. So, yeah.
Yes. Hi. If you guys haven't known, Lulu was on Nintendo Power Block, so you guys can go back and check that. But she is a big fan of the Zelda series. I was checking out the Gossip Stones podcast listening today, and I was just like, "Oh, this is so good." You was talking about, was there a Monster Hunter game that had Zelda in it? I believe it's Monster Hunter Generation for the 3DS, and for a Switch. Because Nintendo didn't get the Monster Hunter series until the Wii with Monster Hunter Tri, and then they got like Ultimate 3 for Wii U. So it has to be Generation. If it's not Generation, it's probably Monster Hunter 4 that was on 3DS. So between those two, I think it's Generation though. With it, because I think you got to dress your Palico up like in Princess Zelda gear or Sheik gear, or it was one of the gear things that you was able to do with that. So
yeah, I think so too. I think after Pow Block, I went and looked it up because I was like, oh, if I'm wrong on this, I'm just gonna bonk myself. And I looked it up. I can't remember which title it was, but I was right. There was Zelda stuff in a Monster Hunter title. So at least that crisis was averted.
Exactly, which is weird because I wish that they had something in Monster Hunter Rise or Monster Hunter Stories with Zelda, because you and Judy was talking about the Oracle games. And we've been talking about there's a possibility of that remake Seasons in what was it? Seasons and Story? Is it?
Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons?
Yeah. What was that? I'm thinking of a different game. That's why. And I was thinking that Grezzo could actually take it and redo it because of Link's Awakening.
Right.
So we're gonna get it all into Zelda because I know you did your what's your first Zelda thing and the last one you played and stuff, and I'm an old school Zelda fan because I had the gold cartridge on the Nintendo NES.
Oh, nice.
So I grew up playing Zelda that way, and actually it was my friend that I saw, and then when my mom got me a Nintendo, I started with Zelda with that, getting the gold cartridge. We actually went to a family-owned furniture store that had the Legend of Zelda 2 in its in a bin. With the cartridge wrapped in plastic, and I picked it up and went there, and my mom brought it for $50.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
So, but before we go on, Lulu, where did you start gaming?
I started gaming probably, it was before I could read, so I don't know, like 4 or 5. My grandpa got me into Nintendo and Zelda. He plays video games. He still does to this day. And he had a Super Nintendo, and so like my first one was A Link to the Past, and
such a classic.
Yeah, it's so good. And so we just we bonded a lot by playing Zelda games, and I would be like, Papa, come watch me. And so yeah, so I've just been gaming for a really long time.
All right. Did you love that dungeon where you had to get that fake princess into the light and she was actually the boss?
Oh yeah, that it's been a while since I've played it, but yeah, that game can have some definite hardships at times.
oh, oh, that one boss that when you hit it, it's you're bouncing back and you about to fall through the floor. And you have to.
Mhm.
Oh, I hated that boss so. Uh, Me and Corey, we have a retro show that we played all through it. So we recorded and put it on YouTube. And I think it took me about 15 minutes to beat that boss because he keep making me fall and everything. I
Yeah.
gotta learn their names. I gotta learn a lot of names from this other series. Um, that's cool. That you got into it. So was it because of the Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past that you got into the Zelda series?
Yeah, it really was. I mean, that kickstarted it for me. And then afterwards, obviously Ocarina of Time. I actually didn't even play Majora's Mask until like a couple of years ago. I played it for the first time. But I think the ones that really solidified it for me were Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess. Those are like Ocarina more like for nostalgia
Mhm.
sake. But Twilight Princess was one that I really just like I was figuring out how to actually game and like I knew what I was doing and I got through it and had that sense of pride more than getting help from my grandpa or something. So Twilight Princess really solidified that Zelda love, but
Mhm.
yeah, A Link to the Past definitely started it.
Ocarina of Time was so it was a big game changer in the industry, and it's still an iconic game because you had the Z targeting. That was a big thing back in the day,
Yeah.
and I think people don't realize why Ocarina of Time putting in the Legend of Zelda in 3D was so influential in like video games in general was because of that lock-on system. Like
Exactly.
you really didn't have that lock-on thing because you can look at Bloodborne or Dark Souls and stuff like there, and they have that lock-on system. But that's kind of how Ocarina of Time started. You had those one-on-one fights,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. It
everything.
was very influential for gaming just in general in a lot of ways.
Yes. So with your love for Zelda and your passion for the series, um, did you ever catch the Super Mario Brother cartoons?
Um, I was a little young, uh, as a not born when they were showing,
Okay.
but um, I have watched them. I've seen, the Mario cartoons, like the older ones. And I've seen the old Legend of Zelda cartoon. Awful but great. Um, so yes, I did catch some of them. I made it a point to watch them.
Okay. Um, and as you got familiarized with the Zelda games, how did you get into the Zelda community?
Um, so that's been a really slow trickle for me. When I was like 12, I made a Zelda website like
Oh, that's
by
amazing.
myself. Yeah.
That's
I
awesome.
actually it turned out really I had like 40 members on there. It was really cool. It was like Zelda rules dot something. I don't freaking know. It's not up anymore, but like it was a free website and I had like articles that I put on it myself. Like it was before I remember it was before Skyward Sword came out. Um,
Ah.
and I remember because we didn't know much about it yet, but we knew that there wasn't going to be a horse. And I specifically remember one article that I wrote that was literally ranting that Epona wasn't going to be in the next Zelda game. And I was like, and there's no Master Sword. Like, how are we going to live? Like, I was so irate um, over those things. And then when Skyward Sword came out, I was like, oh, this is really good. And, so I I still enjoyed it. And anyway, on past that, when it came to Zelda Dungeon, I would watch like their Zelda marathons like every single year that they did. And I remember when I was younger, I would look back, or I would look at them and I would say, I'm going to be there one day and I'm going to be playing Twilight Princess. Like, I'm going to be part of Zelda Dungeon. And, you know, I was young back then. And so it's really cool because like I started chatting with some of them and like made friends. And then I kind of like, I joined a site called Gen Game, which had some people from Zelda Dungeon in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I wrote for them a little bit and I was like, oh, maybe if I do like some Zelda articles, they'll see my potential and, you know, like invite me to be on Zelda Dungeon. But I was in high school and busy, so I kind of dropped off of that. And then actually a couple years ago, I saw that Zelda Dungeon wanted volunteers for their social media team. And I was like, well, what the heck? Why not? I have time right now. I just had a baby. I was like, I'm at home right now, so I'll volunteer. You know, what harm could it do? And I did my like interview with the head of Zelda Dungeon, Masis, and I told him, I was like, yeah, I was part of Gen Game. And he was like, you were part of Gen Game? And I was like, yeah. And so we kind of chatted about that and I joined on. And then a couple months later, I was invited to the marathon. And last year was my second year. And I was able to play Twilight Princess at the Zelda Dungeon Marathon. So literally goal achieved. I was so excited.
Yeah, I actually met David Laxby from Zelda Dungeon accidentally. Celeste was supposed to be talking to a different David, and she ended up messaging David Laxby, and he had a love for Zelda, and so we all started talking. And when I met him, he came on Power Block, and I met him. I was just like, I love you. I think he is so awesome. Definitely with the way that he writes, the way that his passion for Zelda, and it's so amazing. So to meet another person from Zelda Dungeon, it's just like really awesome. Now you also have Gossip Stone, which is your podcast with your friend Judy. You guys talk about video games and other kind of entertainment things. Like you guys talked about conspiracies and speed runs. You even had a discussion on the Matrix, which was really cool to like really hear about. How did that all come about?
So I used to not be very active on Twitter. And then I started getting more active like this past year, and Judy's on there a lot and we interact or whatever. And so I made a random tweet one day and I was like, I really want to start a podcast. And she like made a comment on there and she was like, just do it. And I didn't want to do it by myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was like, well, I need a co-host. I was like, Judy, you know, we're both in Zelda Dungeon. Do you like want to be my co-host? She was like, oh my gosh, sure. So we talked for a couple of days and like worked out what we wanted to name it. I was like, let's wait until I get the artwork. I made the pixel art, like little gossip stones for our logo or whatever. So I like worked on that and we worked out just all the little kinks of it. Obviously there were still some things that went awry, but it was our first season. So it was a lot of fun though. And you know, the funny thing, we haven't even met yet. The past two marathons, she hasn't been able to come to. So just over this, we've grown such a close bond. And I love her so much. And I wouldn't want to do this podcast with anybody else.
That's for me and Corey's relationship. We tell the story a lot of times about we met on Nintendo voice chat and he was doing his old site DNA and I was doing my podcast Optional Opinion, and he asked me like we was talking back and forth. He's just like, hey Ed, would you like to do a podcast about Nintendo? I was just like, yes, I would love to.
Yeah.
And so Nintendo Power Block started that way with him hosting and me and my other friend Adrian and another friend Kyle, like at different times, would come on and talk on things Nintendo. And you know, I just realized that we're getting close to almost 300 next year.
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
yeah, and like me and Corey, we when it was just me and him doing Power Block, we would literally just talk a lot about Nintendo. But our friendship started because of Nintendo Power Block, and it's still going strong. So I understand that feeling that when you start a podcast with another person and you bond over it, and you're having
Mhm.
so much fun, it's like at a time I told Corey, because I tell Corey that he's my brother. Like
Yeah.
he's literally family to me, and I think sometimes when you do a podcast and it grows like that, you guys feel like a family relationship. You feel like a unbreakable bond
Yeah.
uh, with that. So, and I could definitely hear it in the podcast of Gods and Stones because it's if everybody don't know, it's a 8 episode season that you guys got right now, but you guys gonna come back later with a season 2,
Yep.
and it's such a great podcast to listen to. I was kind of mad at one podcast of it because I was walking and it was good, but it was like only 26 minutes. I think you guys only talked news. And I'm like, wait, that's it?
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, I need more.
Yeah, I definitely remember that episode. That day, I think, I don't know, we got all the news for that one that we wanted to talk about, and we were just like, we got to the end of it and we were talking, we were like, this wasn't a very long episode. And I was like, well, sometimes some people are like in a rush and they only have time for maybe a 30-minute episode. So we were like, this can be one for them.
Yeah, it really was just like I was almost done with my walk because I listen to a lot of podcasts when I walk and everything. So I was, getting my exercise and just like that's it. Wait, and I was it because I think when you get into, you really like a podcast when you really get into the conversation and you really wanted to respond and you just like. I can't respond to recorded audio. And I don't. I love the fact that you have people write to you guys because you guys have a question of the week for the next episode. I really like that you incorporate your listeners to respond to the questions that you got. I really think that's awesome. Now,
Thank
I
you.
gotta talk about the E3 episode because I love what you guys said, and I love the fact that at E3, you guys kind of felt like they didn't give you enough of Breath of the
Yeah.
Wild 2. And I think I kind of wonder, I kind of want to ask you, actually after E3, after seeing the trailer, did you look around social media and seeing what people were thinking, seeing the theories? Me and Corey, we talked about this a trilogy. And we have like almost 2.5 hour episodes thinking of what could happen with it. What about you? Did you guys think about that or anything?
Well, I know personally, as soon as the trailer was out, I watch a lot of Zelda tubers, and so of course I went on there and I would watch them like go like little by little over each frame and kind of talk about what you're seeing. And like the Champions cast that I work with, they did a stream about it. So like, yeah, I went into it and I looked around. I looked at a lot of the details, and actually for myself, right after that trailer, I went on like a Twitter tangent, and I was like, what does this mean? Are we going to be able to reverse time? Did you see that rune? It was going backwards. And then I would be like, okay, but what about this? And so like I kept going for a little bit. So yeah, I did. I could see it being like a 3-part game. Um, there's just so much speculation with how little we've gotten. But I like it too because it adds to the mystery and it adds to the anticipation of it. So part of me, obviously, as a Zelda fan, wants to see more, but part of me also doesn't, if that makes sense. And there's so many people that are talking about like the Game Awards. There's going to be some big world premiere announcement, and there have been so much speculation because Reggie came on and was like it's going to be legendary, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, it's Zelda. And so like hopes are rising from people, and obviously as a Zelda fan, I want to see that, but also I don't want to be let down.
Well, I was talking to the guys about this. I don't think it could be Breath of the Wild 2. That's fine. I actually really think that it's going to be Kojima's game. It could be Fable because Fable has been in development, and I don't know if they're having it at the Microsoft theater again. They probably will. I think the way that Microsoft has been going this year, like definitely they had a spectacular E3, and they've
Oh,
just
yeah.
been like knocking it out. I think Fable will be the one to look out for over Breath of the Wild. I think Nintendo is still controlling the messaging of Zelda of when we see Breath of the Wild 2, because we still don't
Mhm.
know the name of it.
Right.
And I really feel like and I understand what you're saying. Like I want to see more, but I don't want to see anything. And I kind of have a feeling that if we get a Nintendo Direct this year, there's a possibility we'll get a name reveal. But we won't. We still won't get a date. We'll just still get that 2022.
Mhm.
I really think that in order to show Breath of the Wild 2, you need E3 next year.
Yeah.
You know, and and with Anuma and Monolith Soft, a lot of people got to realize that they built this game up from the ground because it
Mhm.
is on Switch. I don't know if you've seen the interview that they kind of only had about 6 to 8 weeks to get the game ported to Switch or
Yeah.
something. Uh, and of course, you see that it's like over time they did the patches and it was optimized and everything. But I'm just like, I was more impressed about them getting this Wii U game up to it. What were your thoughts when speaking of like Breath of the Wild? Like, what was your thoughts when you first seen it? Not two, the original Breath of the Wild.
Chills. Definitely chills. I cried. Um, I when it comes to things that I love, whether it be like a beautiful game or a beautiful movie or just series that I really like, I tend to tear up or just straight up bawl.
Mhm.
Um, so when it came to seeing Breath of the Wild, like the first trailer for it, I can still look back and see Link like running and going over the bridge and then the big guardian coming out and then the bow, and I'm like my brain just exploded. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so cool." I Yeah, that's basically what my brain was thinking. I didn't think it would be anything like it is. I appreciate Breath of the Wild for what it is. I wouldn't call it your typical Zelda, as most people by now
Mhm.
don't put it in that, typical Zelda formula. Um, I think it is a good Zelda game on its own if you don't look at it as far as the linear formula goes.
Yeah, it's taking. I think it's evolving the Ocarina of Time Twilight Princess stash 3D games, and
Yeah.
they removed the linear aspect and it's just like do whatever you want. Like it was true open world gameplay.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like I feel like Breath of the Wild is such a science experiment than a video game
Hmm.
because it's a game that teaches you cause and effect. It teaches you physics, um, and it kind of teaches you engineering in a sense. On Gods of Stones, you and Judy was talking about the bomb trick to get anywhere, and I was just like, "That's science that you guys are speaking of because it's dealing with physics. You
Yeah.
know, your timing stuff and you're causing one thing to affect this, which causes another thing. And it's just like, I think a lot of gamers don't realize that this is more than just an open world game. And I don't even think Nintendo recognized that it was more than an open world game. They were just like, we want to keep everything natural in a sense. If this happens and you caused it, this is what you're going to get.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. And I really appreciate how they did Breath of the Wild. It took me a little while at first when honestly, a lot of the time I forget that it was a Wii U game because
Yes.
one, I didn't have a Wii U at the time. I remember always like they call it Zelda U when it wasn't on Switch,
Yeah.
And so for the longest time, I was like, what is Zelda U? I was like, what even is that game? After already knowing what Breath of the Wild was on the Switch, I'm like, Zelda U, what did that just flunk or something? And then I'm like, oh my gosh, it was Breath of the Wild. Because I didn't get it until it was out on Switch already. And I played it for a short bit and I was just like, okay, meh. And then I got back into it. So I think that it's really great that they did it the way they did on the fact of you can do anything that you want and you can solve puzzles multiple ways. And that was one of their main things. But I also think I'm really hoping that in the next one that they bring back a little bit of that linearity, if that's a word. With just special items to get you to next places. Maybe if they don't take away the breakable items, maybe add a blacksmith or something. And you see it in games like Skyrim. It's very open world, but it's still got linearity to it. So I think that they could kind of bring back that Zelda formula a little bit and still keep it Breath of the Wild style. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it feels like what they did with Link Between Worlds when it comes to the special items and getting
Yeah.
them. Like you rented them, but then at a point you could buy them. That works so well for that game.
Yeah.
And so if I could see that implemented in Breath of the Wild 2, I think a lot of people will feel fine because I hate it definitely when you don't want to use your best sword or melee weapon until you get to the boss, and then it breaks when you need it, and it's just like I don't have anything besides bombs to beat this, and half of his energy bar is not gone yet. So
right.
it kind of gets to that point where you guys, I feel like in Breath of the Wild 2, that I think they hopefully they have some weapons that it won't break, but if it's used more times, it just gets weaker and weaker until you wait to it and everything. I think they could balance that because I think I feel like they got a lot of feedback about the breakable weapons. In a sense. So now, because you spoke of Skyrim, what is it about that game? Because I think it just spent like what 25 years, I think, or something like that, or 20 years. Its anniversary just came out, the anniversary game. I think it's 10 years or something.
The Skyrim anniversary was 10 years, I believe.
10 years. Okay. I tried to play it. I'm going to admit I can't get into it. I really don't know why, but for you, I love hearing how you and Judy talked about Skyrim. How did you get into that series?
Well,
or that game, I should say.
I got into Skyrim basically just because I had a bunch of friends that would play it. Both, I really like the Bethesda games in general when it comes to Fallout or Elder Scrolls. And when I was in high school, I had a friend that she played Fallout, and so I played it, I borrowed it, I loved it. And I ended up, while I was waiting for Fallout 4 to come out, I was playing through the Fallout games, and then I went and I was like, oh, I'll play Oblivion. And so I went through Oblivion and I absolutely loved it. And then I was like, oh, well, I'll play Skyrim. And so I went through that too. And I really like I like things in that sort of medieval dragon, fantasy, just any type of game like that. Like I love Fable. Um, and so I think that's what really did it for me. I like magic and swords and archery and sneaking around. So I just really enjoy that. And so, yeah, it was really just friends that were playing it and me being like, what's the big deal? And then I just end up loving it, which happens to me a lot with different games. I'm just like, why is everyone playing this? Why is it so cool? And then I'm like, oh, I see why. Because I just recently bought Stardew Valley.
Nice.
And I have been so addicted. Like I bought it last week and I'm already like 60 hours put into it. I'm so into it. I love it so much.
I have it on my Xbox One, and I need to sit down and play it and stuff because I love the farming aspect to it.
Yes.
It's a great game, great soundtrack, and if you are dedicated and learning what to do, you would get hooked. And I have seen some people who farms are just beautiful, and
Oh, yeah.
I sit back and be like, how do you do that? And I think for me, it's just like I'm not a planner like that. Because it gives me like people who could play sim games in a sense, and that's like it's a very design. It's very because to me, I feel like sim games are a work of art. You look at the full picture, and you're like, oh my goodness, like I can't do this. I could do a $50 million combo in Bayonetta 2. I can't do a lot of this stuff in a sim game, but I get amazed seeing people's work and everything. So I think I got to get back to Stardew Valley and just sit down. I was gonna buy it anyway. I love supporting indie developers, and he did a fantastic job, and his game is still going strong.
It really is. And it, for the price that it is, it's an amazing game. And I've always loved games like The Sims or Animal Crossing. Well, I can't say always for Animal Crossing because I started with New Leaf with that one, but like games like Sims, like The Sims, I have been playing that since Sims 2. I played the little My Sims game. I love games where I can be creative because it just kind of gets my brain going. And when it comes to like, I am not very organized, like in real life. I try to be, but I am not. And when it comes to games like that, I can kind of, I don't know, I guess escape my unorganized life and make it pretty like how my brain wants it to look.
Yeah.
And so it's really stress relieving, even though I'm sitting here like time traveling and skipping days to do the things that I want to do. But I also like to do things like in Stardew. Actually, today I got a piece of paper and I wrote down a checklist of things I do every single day in Stardew Valley. And so like, it's really funny because I got made fun of for it today in a loving way, but I really like making lists, and when it comes to games like that where you can just do whatever you want, it's really awesome. It's just a fun thing to do.
Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 is my game when it comes to like a sim creative thing. Because I don't play the main game of Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, but I love designing coasters. As a kid, I've always loved roller coasters, and that's another game me and Corey have a lot of love for was Roller Coaster Tycoon because he could sit down and make a whole park. He's very organized, very detailed, got a good visionary. I could make some bomb roller coasters, and I look at the color. There's one of them that I call it was like a take on Metroid. So, but it was a roller coaster, and it had similar suit colors in it. But it was just like, even I wish they had the fact that you could be in a ball, but I was just like, you know what? I'll just do it as a regular roller coaster. And it just had all these twisted turns, like you were Samus in a ball and stuff. And I think it was because of Metroid Prime that I played, that it was just like there were sometimes paths that you would see that ball and everything. So
I liked Prime a lot. Actually, I I've only played Prime and Dread, and I didn't ever beat Prime, but like my grandpa got it for the GameCube because he likes sci-fi games like that, and I was like, okay. So I played it a little bit, but at the time I was just like, I don't understand this. This is hard, and so I just didn't pick up Metroid again. And then Judy talked about how much she was loving Metroid Dread,
Yeah.
and our friend Andy, he talks about it. He has an obsession with Metroid, but bless him. So finally I was just like, okay, it's another one of those games where I was like, let's see what all the hype's about. And so I bought it the same day I bought Stardew Valley. And for like a week, I was logging on to Animal Crossing, getting my dailies done. And then I get on Metroid and I would go through like a couple of sections and then I would get off of that and I'd get on Stardew Valley and play for a couple of hours. I was getting balancing with my games, man.
Yes. Well, it was funny when I was listening to the Gospel Stones and you guys was talking about Metroid Dread. I was just like, you guys have not made the connection that Metroid and Zelda are both adventure games in a sense with different aspects of backtracking, but obtaining a new weapon to get to progress and everything. And the backtracking in Zelda, definitely when Link to the Past, it's just like you get something and you go to the town or some area that's close to it. Now you can use that. Where in Metroid, it's just like, oh, I got the super jump. Now I could jump high. Now I could go back to this area and jump and everything. And it's kind of where I'm just like, they haven't thought about that Metroid is kind of in a sense related to Zelda in the sense, but they're different adventure games.
Right.
For it. Metroid Prime, I played the demo at Sam Goody. And I got done with the demo, went to the counter and paid for the full game. Now, my job at that time was like half an hour away from where I pre-ordered it. Yeah. So I had to drive to a whole nother town in 5 o'clock traffic to to get that game. I did the same thing for Okami too. Like I just seen Okami and I wanted to get it. And I think I don't know how you feel about this. Have you ever seen a game because of its art that you wanted to play or buy it?
Yeah, actually, I have. One of them was Calico. It's the little cat cafe game. I love the pastels and the just soft way it looked. And Gris too. I haven't played Gris yet. I haven't played it yet. But I bought it because of the way it looked, because it looked so good. And so I don't know why I haven't played it yet. I wanted to stream it a little bit, but I haven't streamed for a while. So I'm like saving it for that, but I'm really excited to play it because I've heard so many good things about it.
Okay. So we have a show called Talk the Walk here on Boss Rush.
Yeah.
And our last episode was Green. And play the game, and hopefully you listen to that episode because it was from the people that I discussed the game with were from another Zelda podcast.
Yeah.
And they just blew my mind with so many theories and so many explanations and everything. And I was just like, I did not think of this. I didn't think of this game in that way. It literally with Numata Studios, I seen the artwork, I heard the music, and I was just like, the day this game dropped, I'm buying it. Because Greed came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what is this? And the moment that it dropped, I brought it for Nintendo Switch.
Mm-hmm.
And then found out that it came on PlayStation and bought the PlayStation version. And I bought the PlayStation version because I wanted to stream the whole game.
Yeah.
And everything. And I can't say no more about it because you have to play it, Lulu. You have to play it. Let me know to be like Ed. Da 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 da. Just go in knowing that if you feel emotional, it's okay. But it's one of the art styles that I looked at it and I kind of tweeted. I kind of made a tweet about Santa Monica, which is like, this may sound crazy, but I could see God of War in the style game
Hmm.
in this artwork.
Yeah.
Um, and even though it may be a little bit too bloody and stuff, I'm just like, something about the screen Santa Monica could do something with this art style.
Right.
You know, uh, man, I can't wait to play Korea. I'm so happy. Uh, so we talk about snacks.
Yes.
So, what do you snack during gaming sometimes?
Oh, all the time. All the time.
What is your go-to snack when you game?
Um, it's either leftovers or Reese's.
You
Yeah.
heard
We had this
discussion.
talk on Pow Block.
Yeah. Uh and I was just laughing when I heard the episode. I was just like, oh, here go Jacob. I'm like, oh no, Dan, no, don't do it and stuff. Um I do like Reese's Pieces. Um uh I like the Delta box kind of ones, like the M&M style kinds. I
Yeah.
love eating those when playing games. Have so I'm guilty because Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity came out, and when I got the game, I bought it at Target. I had a Mountain Dew and I had a pizza. I literally took the day off to play that game and have pizza for lunch and stuff. Um, have you ever did that? Like, you plan a special meal for a game?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's times where I'll order pizza or order Chinese food or something, or just like stock up on snacks, and if I have the day off and something like a new game has come out that I really am into or really want to
Hmm.
play, I'll just like dedicate that whole day to it. So yeah, I definitely feel that.
Yes. Um, what about movies? Like, are you into like video game adaptation movies, or is this like a certain genre of movie that you like to watch because it feels like a video game in some sense?
Um, I don't know. I mean, I'm into a lot of types of movies. My favorite horror or my favorite movie is horror. Like favorite movie genre is horror.
Yes.
Um, and I like horror games as well. I don't play them very much, but I do like to watch them on YouTube. Um, so I guess I could kind of think of that in like a jump scary type of way, and you could make
Yeah.
that sort of connection. I like video game based movies as well, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. I know Animal Crossing has a movie, but I have yet to see it. So
Wait, where? Wait, huh?
yeah, it's actually an older movie. Uh, yeah, it's a movie, and I think they based it off of Wild World. I think. Please, if any Animal Crossing people hear this, don't attack me if it's not Wild World. But
I know there was a fan made short that before this Animal Crossing came out, the one I think that came out on Wii U, um, this person did a nice, beautiful kind of like um claymation kind of Animal Crossing, and it was like a fan short, and it was really beautiful. Had the right music, and I was just like, man, I wish this was real. I think it was a movie or a little short and stuff, and I was just like, I could see Animal Crossing as a cartoon series as this.
yeah, they actually it wasn't claymation. The movie is actually like an animated cartoon movie. Like
Ooh.
yeah, and they have, I mean, Tom Nook's in there. They have a girl villager with like the pigtails that stick out. I like I said, I haven't seen all of it, but from the clips that I've seen, it looks really good and I want to watch it. So
Now I need to, I did not know. I know about the Star Fox Zero
uh-huh.
anime, that they little trailer that they did, and I know the Pokemon movies is a big thing. You mentioned horror. Have you ever seen a movie called The Witch?
Yes, I have. Yeah,
That movie left me speechless on how
I
good
know.
it is. Because I was just like, what is going on? The mom, she, as crazy as she is, I'm just like, okay, you trying to get this Academy Award.
Yeah, it didn't go the direction I was wanting it to, or not that I was wanting it to, but that I thought it was gonna go.
Yeah.
It was definitely an interesting movie. I think I watched it like a year or two ago, but like, oh, but while we were talking about this, I just had a thought. A show based off of a video game that's coming out is the Tomb Raider animated series, and I am
Yeah.
super excited for that because I love Tomb Raider.
Ah, did you play Rise of the Tomb Raider and Shadow, like the new modern
Yep.
ones? Okay. What is your ranking between all three games? Starting with three.
Starting with Shadow.
No, from 3 to 1. Like the what you put as the
Oh,
third
okay.
one.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, hmm. One being the best.
1 being the best, 3 being the third best.
Honestly, I would put them in order that they came out because I feel like Shadow, it was good, but I feel like it was way too short. Um, the second one is not as memorable to me, but I remember going through and playing like all of the first one, and
Mhm.
I I might have a nostalgia blocker on it for me, even though it's a newer one. Um, but I was so excited for Tomb Raider to come out because I've been into Tomb Raider since I was young, and um, when it came out, I was like, "Oh my God, this is so beautiful!" Like the it's like a movie, you know.
Yes.
It's so good, and I'm hoping that they bring some stuff back from like Xbox 360 days, like
Mm.
um I can't remember, like with Legends and Underworld.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm hoping that they can kind of tie that into this newer series if they decide to keep going. But I really enjoyed those too. And honestly, Legends and Underworld, they did not like, not a lot of people seem to really like those, which is really sad because I love them a lot.
They're because I still have them. I think they were good games. I think it was just a different direction that they were
Yeah.
going to with the series, and it was just like I think after Angel of Darkness kind of, I don't want to say ruined the series or anything.
No, Angel of Darkness is my favorite one.
That I think the thing about it, it was just like it felt unfinished. It had some bugs and stuff, and it
Yeah.
kind of like a lot of people go to that one that said that this one is the one that hurt the series, that kind of damaged its reputation. But like Legends and Underworld kind of was like leading getting it back to what it is. And
Yeah.
so when they did the reboot, yes, the Uncharted games were out, but like Tomb Raider, just the reboot of Tomb Raider, it literally started off so well, so perfect that to me personally, I prefer over the Uncharted series.
Hmm.
Because there was a great story, there was polish. Um, it wasn't doing the, oh, I'm gonna throw everything in the past and then just go. It was just like, this is the moment, and you start from this moment and go forward. You
Yeah.
know.
And I loved getting that kind of origin story, you know,
Mhm.
like um back, I think my first Tomb Raider was the third one, Lost Artifact, where you
Yeah.
could go and run through her mansion and shoot the butler and everything. That was my first one. And I played Angel of Darkness. I love that game. It is one of my favorite Tomb Raiders. And I know that it got not a lot of love, and it makes me really sad because I wish that it could get remade or just, retold in a sense, because I feel like it had a really good story, but they didn't do enough that they should have with it to make it as perfect as it could be. And I think it was also ahead of its time.
Yes.
And when it comes to like Legends and Underworld, they did put a lot more of the, going back to her, I guess, artifact finding, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but there was also good story behind it. And then just coming out with the reboot series, it was fantastic. I do wish the second and third of the reboot were a little bit longer and more polished, but they are still beautiful. They just felt a bit rushed to me, and like story wise.
I think with Angel of Darkness, I think a remaster was suited because I think it had direction, and like and I can admit I didn't get to play it. I think it had direction from hearing people. I think it was the bugs that hurt it, and if this remaster they could go in and fix the bugs. If they want to remake Angel of Darkness, go ahead and remake it, because I will play a collection of the old games if they were able to go in and fix stuff that, bring it up to a bigger quality of life and everything. I definitely would play Angel of Darkness, because it was the one I had the PlayStation 2 when it came out, but I just didn't pick it up because at that time, Tomb Raider for me, the reputation was hit hard. Like it was just like the quality was getting poorer and poorer, and I didn't want to invest any money into definitely like reading, because my Bible to me was EGM when it came to video games, and reading the reviews and stuff. It was just like, yeah, it's good, it's passable, but if you could deal with all the crashes and just some of the bugs and stuff, you might enjoy this game. But I was just like, well, I don't want to buy a game that crashes, because my friend, he bought Mortal Kombat Trilogy on PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
And that crashed after you played 45 minutes of it. And it was just like, we played it on PlayStation 1, and then when I got it on N64, it was still crashing. So it was just like, we can't really, because my first Tomb Raider was on PlayStation 1, and it was just like, I don't know what happened with the quality of this game. So because I would love for Angel of Darkness to come to Switch. I would love like the old Tomb Raider games and the modern ones to touch the good old Nintendo Switch, because I would invest money into it. Like I would play the game with it. So I know I don't want to keep you long, but do you have any projects or anything coming up for Zelda Dungeon or for Gossip Stones or anything?
Well, really for Gossip Stones right now, we're working on season 2. We don't have a date set yet for when we're going to be back, but we do plan on having quite a bit of guests on and like doing fun games and everything. So that's pretty much it as far as that goes. When it comes to Zelda Dungeon, my main project is working on clips for their podcast. So
all right. Are you watching the Game Awards? Well, probably by the time you see this, the Game Awards will be out. But did you plan on watching it or anything?
It depends. I've got a lot of work going on lately, getting back into tax season because I work at H&R Block. So possibly if I'm not working, I'll definitely be like paying attention to it, of course, though, because obviously I gotta see what's going on.
I messaged my friends, Dignity Podcast, shout out to them, that we really gonna be watching the Game Awards for the Nintendo trailer, and and probably like maybe some new indies that come.
Yeah.
Because like definitely it's for the last 2 years or something. It's like when you hear that Nintendo Switch sound, you be like, what the world is going on? What is this? And then you see it and you're like, I need to buy that and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
That Persona 5 when Joker came to Smash, everybody was just like, what? And I still think the biggest one is seeing Cloud in Smash. I know everybody loves Sora and Smash and everything, but see, oh, which reminds me, because you guys talked this on the Gods and Stones. I'm not sorry, everybody. See Kazuma throw Ganon, and
Oh, yeah.
okay, me and David screamed in joy. We was laughing because he's like, was this Breath of the Wild? Like, what's going on? Get it? I'm like, what? We thought it was like, okay, this Breath of the Wild. No, this could be Hyrule Warriors, like DLC. Like, we were hyped, we were screaming. And then when we saw Ganon get it thrown off, and it was Kazuma
Yeah.
for second, we were just like, what?
I know. I was so disappointed too because like I wasn't really thinking Hyrule Warriors. I was thinking like I don't know, just some spin-off Zelda game, but I was like so hyped. I was like, "Oh my God." And like they led it with that. And they knew what they
Yeah.
were doing too. When they
Yes.
led it with that, they were like, this is gonna throw them for a tizzy. Let's do it." And obviously, you know, at the end of that, they gave us the trailer, and so they knew what they were doing, and it was very sneaky on their part, but I got a good laugh out of it.
I did too. I was laughing so hard. I was just like, this is so funny. And then he'll just throwing all the other characters, and then he dropped Kirby, but Kirby saved himself. I was just like, wow. Did you ever see the first Hyrule Warriors trailer on Wii U?
Um, no, but well, maybe I probably did, but I love the first Hyrule Warriors. I actually don't like Age of Calamity very much.
Really?
Really, I would much prefer the first Hyrule Warriors to Age of Calamity, and I know that I'm gonna get shook down for that,
No,
but
no, you won't. No, you won't. I think me and David loved it. I made, well, of course, for Pop Block, it was like our game of the year. And I think what I loved about it was, regardless of what you think of the gameplay and the combat and stuff right there, I think I love the cutscenes and the story. Suga is like, I love him because just his character design, his mannerisms, his voice acting, something about him screamed power for the Yugi clan.
the the Yiga.
Yiga for the Yiga clan. Sorry, Yugi. Oh goodness, the Yiga clan. The moment I seen him, and I was just like, I wanted a amiibo. I wanted a plush. Like, I wanted a T-shirt, a poster. Like, he's one of my favorite villains in the game, or villains or enemy in the Zelda series. And I was just like, something about you just screams power. And I guess like Kobe Tecmo did such a phenomenal job, and I love that Anuma and the Zelda team let them create him for this game and stuff. And I know people have problems with it, like the timeline and the linearity and the story plot and everything. But I think I was so here for the ride of these cutscenes, because it felt like a Zelda game, but it also felt like a Zelda movie.
Yeah, and I can see that. I I really enjoy the first one just
Mhm.
because it's so wacky, and like I love Ganon's. I love all the designs.
Yes,
I think the design style of the first Hyrule Warriors is phenomenal, like
agree.
phenomenal, and I want a like mainstream Zelda game that looks like that. Like I would pay so much money for that. I really would.
Can
And
I
it's just
say,
fun. Yeah.
Hyrule Warriors soundtrack, the first one,
Oh,
I love. They call
yes.
it butt rock. That soundtrack is perfect for that
It
game,
is.
and I love it so much. The day that it came out, and I just got onto the first stage and played it, I'm like, oh, I'm into all of this. I still got to rebuy
Mhm.
it on Switch, but I own the Wii U version, and I beat it, and I was just like, I love these original characters. I love the story, and I wish, I think I like Hyrule Warriors Edge of Calamity because they learned some things.
Mhm.
Because that was kind of my first Warriors game. Uh
Yeah.
and stuff. And when I see the trailer, I'm like, what is this nonsense? I'm like, Hyrule Warriors, what? And they're just like, oh, they took what I love about the Zelda game and made it a actual game. I love the action and just this beat 'em up style and this weird thing. And it was just like, this is so odd. But the day it came out, I was buying it. And I remember when it came out, everybody was playing it for that whole weekend. And
Yeah.
they loved it. And they were just like, yeah, it's a 8.0. It's an average game. We probably won't go back to it. But what we are playing, it pulls you in.
Yeah, and I like honestly, the Warriors type games, they're not for everybody. They really aren't. But like even the definitive edition and Age of Calamity, just being able to play as all of like these different characters you really really love. I think that adds a lot to it, because there are so many times where people are like, oh, I want to play as Zelda. Oh, I want to play as so-and-so, and then you get there and you can play as them. Yeah, it's not adventuring or whatever, but you're still playing as them. I mean, in Definitive Edition, getting to play from Ganondorf's side and like seeing his side of the story and, just seeing how they all work together. And I know that it's not canon or whatever, but
Yes.
you could totally put that in there as to why so many things are in the Breath of the Wild world. Like with the whole, dimension warp and everything. So I don't know. In my own head, it's canon. So
It's weird thinking about it. Capcom, Koei Tecmo, and Grezzo are the three companies that have worked on the Legend of Zelda series. Mercury Steam is the only one Mercury Steam, Koei Tecmo, and because Team Ninja, they did Metro Other M, and Retro before Nintendo bought them worked on Metroid. And the only other people who worked on Mario right now that I think about it is Ubisoft. And there was another company that did the Hotel Mario games, I believe. But Nintendo still had a part. But like Ubisoft as a third party is the only ones that worked on the Mario game outside of it. So it didn't Bandai Namco with Smash, but that doesn't count. Well, Lulu, I want to thank you for doing this 1v1 with me. Let everybody know where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter at Lulu Sugaboo. You can also find me on Twitch at Lulu Sugaboo. And you can also follow the Gossip Stones at the Gossip Stones. So that's where you'll find me.
Yeah, and also you guys check out Zelda Dungeon. You can follow them and check out their work. You can find me on Twitter at that retro code. You can check out more at Boss Rush items blogs and videos at bossrush.net, and also check us out on YouTube at Boss Rush Games, and also follow us at Boss Rush Network on Twitter. I love to say Twitch on Twitter. You guys know where you guys can find us and stuff. Lulu, thank you for joining me. Everybody have a great week, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time on 1v1. Bye everybody.
Bye bye.